Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ramachandra Kripalu Bhajana. कंदर्प अघमित अमित छवि नवनील नीरज सुंदरम कंदर्प अघमित अमित छवि नवनील नीरज सुंदरम पटपीठ मानव तर तरुचि सुचि नौमि जनक सुतावरम पटपीठ मानव तर तरुचि सुचि श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भजन Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ramchandra Kripalu Bhajana. भजु दीन बंधु दिनेश दान दैत्य नंशन कंदनम भजु दीन बंधु दिनेश दान दैत्य नंशन कंदनम रघुनंद आनंद कंद कौशल चंद दशरथ नंदन रघुनंद आनंद कंद कौशल चंद दशरथ नंदन श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम Shri Ram, Shri Ram. सिरमुकुट कुंडल तिलक चारु उदारु अंग विभूषणम सिरमुकुट कुंडल तिलक चारु उदारु अंग विभूषणम आजानु भुज सरचाप धर संग्राम जित कर दूषणम आजानुज सरचाप धर संग्राम जित कर दूषणम श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भजन ओ श्री राम श्री राम Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram. शंकर शेष मुनि मनरंजनम् इति वदति तुलसी दास शंकर शेष मुनि मनरंजनम् मम हृदय कंज निवास कुरु कामादि धन गंजनम् मम हृदय कंज निवास कुरु कामादि धन गंजनम् श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम श्री राम श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भजन हरण श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भजन बोले श्री रामचंद्र भगवान की जय. And before we can dive into the Brahmacharyanas, there's some formalities that we have to do. Just like you have to sign that visa form before you land in the United States, like I did a couple of days ago on my trip to India, there's some formalities. And the number one formality that Tulsi Dasji recommends before we start Ramayana is that we chant the Ramayana Sudan. What that is, we'll see. Let's chant that together, okay? जो सुमिरत सिद्धि होई रमा जो सुमिरत सिद्धि होई रमा गणनायक करी बर बदना करी बर बदना करो अनुग्रह सोई रमा करो अनुग्रह सोई रमा बुद्धि राशि शुभ गुण सदना शुभ गुण सदना मूक होई वाचाल रमा मूक होई वाचाल रमा पंगु चढ़ई गिरि बर गहना जासु कृपा सो दयाल रमा जासु कृपा सो दयाल रमा प्रभु सकल कलिमल दहना कलिमल दहना नील सरोह श्याम रमा नील सरोह श्याम रमा तरुण आरुण बारिज नयना बारिज नयना करौ सो मम और धाम रमा करौ सो मम और धाम रमा सदा क्षीर सागर शयना सागर शयना कुंभ इंदु समदेह रमा कुंभ इंदु समदेह रमा उमा रमण करुणा आयना करुणा आयना जाहि दीन everyone. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Oh Jai Jai Ram. Bole Shri Ramachandra Bhagavan ki Jai. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadguru Brahma Vidwaram Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So before we begin, I salute my Acharyas in India, Swami Advainanda Ji, Swami Sharadananda Ji, Swami Tejamayananda Ji, and of course our Puja Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananda Ji. And of course our resident Acharya, Swami Ishwarananda Ji, by whose grace and whose blessings all of this is possible, along with you good people. Right? See, what Ramayana teaches us and what life teaches us is that in order for any organization to be at its top, in order for any family to be its greatest, there must be something called a symbiotic relationship, okay? And not only families, even married couples. Whatever the relationship may be, if there is something called symbiotic relationship present, that means give and take, okay? In Tulsi Ramayana, actually, in the Kishkinda Kand, we see exactly who a friend is. And it says, Deta late, that means dena lena. True friends give and take. But you see what happens in these days is that even in corporations, in organizations, there's usually one person who gives and the other person simply takes and enjoys. These are the things that we must avoid. And in satsang, in Sanskrit, it is said, Sange Shaktihi Kalau Yuge. It means simply, in the age of Kali Yuga, satsang like this is very beneficial. Having an organization like Chinmaya Mission Rameshwaram here is beneficial not only to us, but for the entire populace in general. Why? Because we learn values, we learn morals, and we learn correct etiquette, the way to live in life. And most importantly, the ideals of symbiotic relationships, giving and taking in life, are propagated in such environments. So I congratulate all of you for being a part of this wonderful organization. Swami Ishwarananda, as I said earlier in the talks this morning, he is my mentor personally. I look up to him for everything. He is actually my Parama Guru. Swami Sharadanandaji, I don't know if many of you know him, but he is the one in India during my 2-year course, he's the one who taught me Sanskrit. And Sharadanandaji is a direct disciple of Swami Ishwaranandaji. So you see how that works? Our Pradhan Acharya, Advainandaji, who taught us the Upanishads, he is Swami Ishwaranandaji's Guru Bhai. So they studied together in the Vedanta course. So the connection is strong. So naturally I was gravitated towards such an individual. So to that great Swami Ishwaranandaji, wherever he is at this time, we salute first and foremost. So my dear friends, today's talk is called Connect the Link between God, ourselves, and the world. Now, in the highest of philosophies, Vedanta, we understand that the connecting link of all three of these things is something called Paramatma, the Self. And to most of us, I speak for myself here, the thought of God realization is a very elusive thing for me. No matter how much Shravanam I do, which is listening to the injunctions of the scriptures, no matter how much Mananam I do, which means studying and carefully thinking about what I've heard, I can't seem to do the final step, which is Nididhyasana. Can you say that word for me?
Nididhyasana.
Nididhyasana means simply abiding in that one supreme consciousness that we call Paramahatma. Detaching from all of these vasanas that we see here and integrating both mind and intellect to make every other experience in the world first class. So the goal is this, my dear friends. The goal is to detach from the idea that we are perceiver, feeler, thinker in the world of objects, emotions, and thoughts, and to detach from the idea, first off, that we are the body, mind, and intellect. The only way we can do that is by reaching the highest goal of human life, which is the realization that we are that Paramatma and that Paramatma alone. And you see, the trick is, this Paramatma, this supreme reality, isn't just in us. It's in everything you see, it's in the world in general. How that's possible, we'll see a bit later. My dear friends, in order to reach this point, this must be cultivated to its maximum efficiency. If the mind is not tamed, my dear friends, guess what? Realization of the self will continue to be a textbook theory, will continue to be intellectual gymnastics, and will continue to be a very euphorian concept. Something that is very elusive, imaginary. We hear our great saints and sages talk about realization and the bliss of realization. Now I ask all of you the question, how many of you want to be happy? Raise your hand. Raise 2 hands if you can at the Baldi arcades. When I ask them this question, all of them said, yes, I want to be happy. They have no inhibitions. But my question to you is, what are we doing to cultivate that happiness? You see, it is very simple. We have the knowledge, we have the ideas, but without practice, it is in vain. Just like anything else, right? I can say in all of my life, in my dreams, I want to be LeBron James. I want to be the best basketball player. Kobe Bryant, he's in LA, you know? But if I don't practice that jump shot, will that ever happen for me? Will I ever get to the NBA? Similarly, Bhagavan Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, without abhyas, without practice, one will never be able to tune the mind. One will never be able to integrate his intellect into the mind to be the right decision maker, to calm the mind into destroying this, sublimating these vasanas to reach the self. You see, so it all starts with you, my dear friends. If you are willing to change, right, then the world is at your feet. Not necessarily bowing, right? But the world will be the happy place that you want. Remember, as I said earlier in our talks this morning, I said a beautiful world sees a beautiful mind sees a beautiful world. An ugly mind sees a ugly world. This is how the mind works. No matter what situation we're in, it can be the most heavenly situation. If the mind isn't tuned correctly, then that goes that. You see? And it happens to many people in New York. I don't know about here. Okay? But in New York, it's a very beautiful place to live. But the mind, my dear friends, is full of what? Turmoil. The mind is full of anxieties. The mind is full of depression, and so on, which brings us down into a level that we don't want to be, no matter how much we have in life. In the Tulsi Ramayana, my dear friends, and the topic that I'll be taking for the next 6 nights is the Sati Shiva Prasanga. In this portion of the Ramayana, we see behavior of how not to be. Tulsi Dashti is very smart, okay? He is Valmiki's incarnation. He came to earth basically to bring Ramayana to the common man, like how Gurudev brought Vedanta to the plains after he learnt in Uttarkashi. Tulsidasji, the great Santa Tulsidas, came down to earth. He's a reincarnation of Lord Shiva himself to show mankind the way through simple Awadhi language. It's a dialect of Hindi, one of the most beautiful languages of India. So in this way, my dear friends, we see exactly what not to do in order to tune the mind, to integrate body, mind, and intellect, to be the best jiva we can be, to realize Paramatma one day. So you see how it's all tuned in and written for us for a tea to practice? Not only does Sri Rama, in this same Ramayana, show us how to behave, but Tulsidasji shows us instances, and more specific, Mother Sati shows us how not to be in the face of a great master. Let us chant the first chaupai and let us see the scenario leading up to the mishap of Sati. Sati samujhi Sati samujhi Raghuveer prabhavu. Sati samujhi Raghuveer prabhavu. Bhai bas siva sankeena duravu. Bhai bas siva sankeena duravu. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Rama. Kachuna pariksha leena Gossai. Kachuna pariksha leena Gossai. कीन्ह प्रणाम तुम्हारे ही नाई. कीन्ह प्रणाम तुम्हारे ही नाई. श्री राम जय जय राम. श्री राम जय जय राम. श्री राम जय जय राम. Bole Shri Ramachandra Bhagavan ki. For those of you who have the Tulsi Ramayana, this particular section comes in Balakanda after Doha number 55. Okay, those of you who have the Tulsi Ramayana. Doha 55, Balakanda. So what we're seeing, my dear friends, is something very interesting. As I said before, Tulsi Das Ji is showing us how not to be. If ever we want to reach this point, my dear friends, there are certain things that we have to avoid. In the course of these 6 days, we'll be seeing how not to act and how to act. How our actions not only affect our own minds, but affect the minds of loved ones, affect the minds of subordinates, affect the minds of colleagues, and affect the minds of the entire world. And how that effect is the cause of either our connection with the self or our disconnection with the self. So you see, my dear friends, how it's all connected? There is no such thing as separation from you, from God, from another, or the Paramatma. Everything depends upon you. As a matter of fact, if you look at the Mandukya Upanishad, you know what it says? Very scary thought. This world depends on you. There is no such thing as me here. There is no such thing as Shekharji playing tabla. This is all your dream. That's what Mandukya says. Why? Because all of these instances that we see here are happening in an instrument called the mind. Okay, I won't go into Mandukya Upanishad now, but that is the general concept. If you want this world to be that of peace, no matter where you live, that peace must start within you first. But there are certain things that you must avoid, and there are certain things that you must do to cultivate that peace that you're looking for. Now we see in this instance of Balakanda that Satiji, and those of you who are new to Ramayana, it'll be very beneficial for you to know who she is. Sati is the first incarnation of Mother Parvati. Parvati Ma, as we know, is the consort of who? Lord Shiva, right? And beautiful Lord Shiva sits downstairs. I was saying that this talk series would have been very beautiful in front of Lord Shiva. But we know Lord Shiva to be everywhere anyway. Hanumanji is here, and he's gracing this occasion. But Sati was the wife of Lord Shiva. And we all know how her story went, right? It started off with Sati approaching Lord Shiva like any other wife and husband do. When the wife is bored, she approaches the husband, and the husband tells her beautiful stories. Well, that's how it's supposed to happen. Nowadays, they say, shoot, shoot, shoot. But in the olden days, back then, the husband's duty was to entertain the wife in this way, telling them beautiful stories of Bhagavan to enrich their mind, to take them to the next level, right? So Sati approaches Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva starts to talk about the glories of who? Can you tell me? Sri Ram. Talks about all of his prabhav, all of his greatness, his gunagan, everything that you can talk about that is great about Sri Ram. It is found in the words of Lord Shiva. But then Sati had many doubts, just like all of us, isn't that true? She doubted the words of Lord Shiva, and she questioned the ability of Ram to be who? God. And all of us know that Sri Ram is indeed who? Parama Atma. He is that Parama Atma who we are seeking in life. So when Sati had these doubts, she kept it very silently. Just like all of us, isn't that true? Sometimes when we doubt another person in our family, we doubt a friend, do we usually tell them right away? No. What do? We usually carry out our own what? Our own experiments, isn't that right? Sati ji hastened to do this. What did she do? Gai sameepa mahesa taba hasi puchi kusalata leen paricha kavan vidhi kahahu satya sababat. After she came back from the test, and how did she test? You know? She went down to Aranya, into the forest, where Sri Ram was. But who did she disguise herself to be? Sita Ma herself. Imagine that. Lord Rama, even though looking very sad and looking very human, crying for his wife, he knew exactly where she was, and she was fine. But we all know the play of the Lord, that it had to have been this way for the evil to be destroyed. Isn't that right? If you look at the Puranic aspect. Sati, showing us how not to be, doubted the greatness of God. This is the first mistake we make, our dear friends. The first mistake, for those of you who have pens and paper, write this down. Because it is across the board. We hear about the greatness of Gurudev. We hear about the greatness of Sri Ram. We hear about the greatness of Mahatmas. But you know what comes into the mind of most of us? Doubt. That aspect that is so crucial and is a vital part of being a true Vedantin. What is that aspect? Shraddha. Can you say that word for me? Shraddha. Shraddha means having implicit faith in my gurus, in great Mahatmas, not in their physical form, but the tattva or the principles that they say or represent. If we have Shraddha in this, my dear friends, it is the first step in tuning the mind to making it very intellectual based in order to destroy these vasanas and to realize the self. As a matter of fact, you may have studied Tattva Bodh before. Have you studied that?
Yes.
What is the fourfold requirement of any Vedantin? It's called Sadhana Chatushtaya. Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha. Vairagya you must have. Then something called Samadhi Shatta Sampatti. And then Mumukshutvam. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Embedded in Samadhi Shatta Sampatti, we have something called what? Shraddha. If we lack this Shraddha, my dear friends, then that Paramatma that we're looking for will be very elusive. You know, some people in New York, I teach on Monday nights, the corporate world. I teach the Bhagavad Gita to them. And you know what they say? How do you know for sure that God is there? How do you know for sure that what your guru is telling you is correct? Why should I have faith in something I can't see? And I have to go into lengthy Vedantic discussions to prove that God exists. But I won't do that here because I know Swamiji does that with you already. But what I tell them in a nutshell is this. Will it really hurt if you had faith? What do you have to lose? As a matter of fact, you have a lot to gain. That's the end result. And then to answer their questions about atheists, there's a lot of atheists out there who are plenty and happy. I say, to atheists, I have some friends who are atheists, there's nothing wrong. But the mere fact that they're trying to disprove God means what? That God exists. Will they try to disprove anything that doesn't exist? No, they won't waste their time. They will disprove something that exists. And in Vedanta we see that if I point to that corner over there and say nothing is there, does that make any sense? Logically speaking, if you look at that grammar, nothing means what? Absolutely nothing. Isn't that true? But when the verb is present, and my young friends who are here, I see a lot of youngsters here today, I'm very happy. When you see the verb is in a sentence, what does that imply? That there is a presence of something, but it appears to be nothing. In Vedantic language, it's called avyakta, that thing that is unmanifest, but truly manifests from time to time. So my dear friends, this idea that God isn't there, this distrust that we have in our gurus, in the philosophies, in the Shastra, if we continue to be this way, and I know I'm preaching to the choir because all of you love your gurus and you love your Shastra and you have implicit faith. You actually have Shraddha and not Vishwas. Can you say this word for me? Vishwas. Shraddha. You know there's a difference between the two? Can anybody tell me the difference? Vishwas means what? Belief. Isn't that true?
Yes.
Shraddha means what? Trust and faith. If I say, I believe this thing is made of